who is involved in IoT initiative. Starting from the left-hand side, we've got the hardware designer. IoT, the thing, which is the thing. This is something that is very interesting for me personally in the Internet of Things, because we work with the actual hardware that can impact our surroundings and that can get data from our surroundings, which is very, very interesting. Then we've got the embedded developer, the person that is able to write firmware on this hardware, because this hardware needs to be controlled by some logic, and embedded developer, this is typically a role that is responsible for creating that logic. We've got IT and network administrator, and that person, this should be also the security architect. That person needs to establish the local connectivity. For instance, if we are talking about the industrial Internet of Things deployment, we need to create local infrastructure, local network, local firewalls, proxies, all of that, in order to establish the connectivity. The same is true for the on-premise backend, and even for the cloud backend if you're using the virtual machines. So we need basically old school IT administrator to manage all of that. Then we've got the edge application developer. And this is the position that is kind of in between the device part and the typical IT part, because that person typically is using different set of tools than the embedded developer, but is responsible for creating the business logic the way that embedded developer creates it on the embedded devices. This person creates that logic on the edge gateway, gathering data from various devices, doing some pre-processing before sending data to the cloud, potentially also executing some edge logic and machine learning inference. Then we've got a cloud developer. So someone that is responsible for establishing the cloud infrastructure, the cloud backend for our IoT system. And that person needs to know some things that are specific to IoT, and we will cover them later, and some things that are not necessarily that specific to IoT, but this is basically to create secure backend infrastructure. We also got full stack developer. This is someone that creates applications running in the cloud or maybe on the on-prem backend system, creating a user interface, user frontend to all of the device side of things, so people can leverage that, access data, send commands to devices, and basically work with the solution. Then we've got a solution architect. And solution architect is basically someone that is responsible for having the whole thing working end to end, and to be sure that decision at every stage is proper one from the security standpoint, from the cost standpoint, from the scalability standpoint. Lastly, we've got more business roles. So the project manager that is responsible for delivering all of the things that we've got here on time and within the budget. And we've got the business stakeholder that is responsible for a number of things, from defining requirements to organizing budget for the whole initiative. Why am I talking about all of that if you want to be just an IoT consultant? Do you really need to know all of those roles that are involved in the project? Well, from my personal perspective, you do. Because as an IoT consultant in the IoT initiative, you are responsible to communicate and to understand with every single role that I mentioned here. I remember my first presentation that I gave to the board members of a significant enterprise. Then I understood how different my view is from what they are looking after, from what they are worried about, and what is important for them. I thought it is something that I was aware of, but I was very, very wrong. So as an IoT consultant, you need to be able to work and to communicate with all of those roles and respect the way that they work.